2 days ago, we heard Iran say they're coming to Bahrain and the UAE, a ground invasion by the Revolutionary Guard.
This is a recurring statement. Back in 1969, Asad Alam, the minister of the Imperial Court, the head of the Imperial Court during the Shah's era, said this at a conference attended by a Sheikh Khalifa, the former Prime Minister, Khalifa ibn Salman. May he rest in peace. He said it at a conference. He said, we can occupy Bahrain with a single plane. So a Sheikh Khalifa, may he rest in peace, replied, well, every Bahraini, God willing, will shed every drop of his blood to drive you out of Bahrain. Then a Sheikh Khalifa withdrew from the conference and went to his room. Asad Alam and the Iranian foreign minister called him to apologize and ask him to return to the conference. The Iranians, it's just talk they use to bully.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Jamal Al-Mullah from the UAE. This is Gulf Uncensored in cooperation with the Arab Strategy Forum. Ibn Rashid mentioned in one of his works saying, when a poet emerged in an Arab tribe, other tribes would come to congratulate them and prepare feasts. Women would gather, playing the lutes, just as they do at weddings. Men and children would rejoice because the poet was a protector of their honor, a defender of their lineage, an immortalizer of their exploits, and a herald of their legacy. In the past, the poet was the tribe's minister of information, and the Arabs also used to say, half of war is intimidation. Today in the Gulf, we face blatant Iranian aggression and outright war against us. So what is the state of our Gulf media, specifically the media funded by the Gulf? I know very well that I and other Gulf citizens, these days, when we watch some Gulf news channels and hear what's being said, we're overcome with anger at the promotion of the myth of Iranian power and the subtle pushing of the Iranian narrative, cementing it in people's minds. We get even angrier when we remember that this promotion originates from Gulf soil, with Gulf funding, and ends up glorifying Iranian propaganda. And I don't just mean one channel, there are several, but what's the story exactly? It's an addiction to the popularity of the axis of resistance. This popularity that the channel has built over decades. They don't want to lose it, even at the expense of Gulf national security. It's an addiction, even at the cost of credibility and professionalism. I swear, a few days ago on this channel, I saw a clip of an Arab presenter who almost hit his guest. Why? Because the guest came close to explicitly condemning Iranian actions against the Gulf states. Everyone saw the clip. It's strange and inexplicable. It's so crude and insulting to every Gulf citizen. I think even Al-Mayadeen channel would be ashamed to show it. Even Al-Manar would be ashamed. But our Gulf channel wasn't ashamed. There is no power but in God. Honestly, as Gulf citizens, we don't know. Whether we're fighting Iranian missiles in the sky or fighting them on our screens. In the year 1948, there was an Arab army preparing to liberate the Jericho area in Palestine. They lined up the army and brought the Mufti of Jericho to give a rousing speech. The Mufti came, and he was blind, by the way, and asked, "Who is the army commander?" They told him, "A British general." He said, "Ah, well, God willing." The Mufti gave a three-word speech, "Our army, if only you were our army." And today in the Gulf, with great pain, we say, "Our media, if only you were our media." We have a proverb, "If only we returned from our pilgrimage safe." And today we're forced to repeat, "If only we were safe from some of our media." I say this, and my reward is with God. Forget the channels, forget the programs, and leave the coverage aside, and put Jamal Al-Mullah on top of them too. The only media person shining right now is the Gulf citizen, who fights his war every day against the herds of reality fakers and those who suppress awareness. 1,000 kisses on your forehead, hero, a few days ago. The spokesperson for the Qatari Foreign Ministry, the dear Majid Al-Ansari, made a statement. He said that the Gulf states must re-evaluate their security system. With all love, we disagree with you. Dr. Majid, the security system of the Gulf states has proven highly efficient through the efforts and sacrifices of the youth. The heroic Gulf youth. These people need reinforcement and more support, not a re-evaluation. Every day they perform acts of heroism and sacrifice beyond evaluation. What needs re-evaluation is the media work. And as soon as possible. This is our opinion, Dr. Majd. And now to our guest, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Tamimi, a media professional and expert in institutional evaluation. Let's hear his opinion. Welcome to the show from the Kingdom of Bahrain.
May God welcome you and protect you, Brother Jamal. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank God. Tell us about Bahrain. I'm asking you about Bahrain. What does the song say?
But first, you reminded me of songs now. Honestly, we forgot about songs. We just finished Ramadan.
Okay, reassure me about Manama and Bahrain.
We are all well and blessed, thank God, by the grace of God Almighty. And God is the best protector, and He is the most merciful of the merciful. And under our leadership, may God protect them, God willing. And these kind hearts, Bahrain and the UAE, are one country. May God prolong your life.
2 days ago, we heard an Iranian statement saying they are coming to Bahrain and the UAE, a land invasion by the Revolutionary Guard.
This is a repeated statement from the year 69. Asad Alam, the head of the Iranian court, the head of the Iranian royal court during the Shah's era, he said this at a conference in the presence of a Sheikh Khalifa, the former prime minister, Khalifa bin Salman. May God have mercy on him. He said it at a conference. And he said, with one plane, we can occupy Bahrain. So a Sheikh Khalifa, may God have mercy on him, said, well, every Bahraini, God willing, will shed every drop of his blood to drive you out of Bahrain. And a Sheikh Khalifa withdrew from the conference. And he went to his room. Asad Alam, the Iranian foreign minister, called him to apologize and ask him to return to the conference. The Iranians, they bluster with words. And what I'm saying is mentioned in Asad Alam's memoirs. The book is in my library. I think it's there. Asad Alam's memoirs.
So you mean they talk a lot?
Words in public and words in private.
Today, our episode is about Gulf media. It's strange that there's media funded by the Gulf, by Gulf governments, yet it glorifies Iran. I don't know. Are we being too sensitive, or is there really something wrong with this?
Media, Gulf media and Iranian media, do you mean as a comparison?
Media in Gulf media institutions that glorifies Iran, even in the midst of war, I mean. This is somewhat noticeable.
The compass is a bit, the compass isn't actually completely accurate yet. Some media institutions are living in the pre-2014 era. Look, may God grant you a long life. 2014 was a turning point in the life of media. 2014 was the era of event-based media. Before 2014, 2011 was the Arab Autumn phase. Before 2014, it was event-based media. 50 people killed, 40 died, Kandahar, and I don't know what else. The Arab person got bored of event-based media, bored of the media of killing, bored of news-based media. There was beautiful media that should have been highlighted. There were millions of flowers that bloomed, millions of copyrights, millions of inventions that happened in the world. But media, especially in the Arab region, focused on killing and such in the Arab region. So the Arab person, because of the Arab autumn events, got tired of their life after 2014. And thanks to podcasts like our program Arabcast, it has now shifted to narrative media, storytelling media. Storytelling emerged. So you see today the Arab person, especially in the Gulf now during the crisis. I don't care, nor do I know how many ships are stationed today at the Strait of Hormuz. I don't know, and maybe even you don't know how many ships are there. But I care about one ship that passed, and what's the story that made it pass? I love the narrative. Today, for example, media in the UAE, I love on the day it rained, I love how the story that made people cooperate with each other, they cooperate and stand together. How did people cooperate in this predicament? How did they handle the crisis? Unfortunately, some media outlets are still living in the pre-2014 era. That's why you see them glorifying Iranian media and glorifying Iranian weapons. What do Iranian drones even mean? What are these unmanned systems? When these drones first appeared, we already had weapons, thank God. Our countries protected the Gulf's skies with the best weapons available. Glorifying Iranian weapons? Do you know how much our countries spent to protect their people? And how? With what systems? Should I glorify a country that deprived its people of food? Should I really glorify a country that has deprived its own people of even the most basic health care? A country that supposedly protected its people from the streets, from access to education, healthcare, and so on? I actually know some Gulf citizens, people who I personally know who undergo medical surgeries in hospitals. In Iran, they perform their surgeries using a generator. The power goes out on them. They tell me, I swear, God bless our countries when they go for surgeries there because it's cheap. They perform surgery in an operating room that looks like a tiled pool during the procedure. Blue tiles, come on, guys. Look at our countries, thank God, the infrastructure and urban development. There's a difference. A news channel just wants to create hype, don't forget. Narrative media is media that wants to create change. It wants to build a civilization, but news media just wants to create hype. There's a difference between reform and hype.
But in your opinion, why has a group of citizens in the Gulf countries emerged so prominently? I mean, supporting the Iranian narrative in a scary way, glorifying drones, missiles, Iranian sovereignty, and the strategic independence that Iran has. It's like a long, confusing movie. You don't know where it starts or where it ends.
It's an intellectual ideology, unfortunately, and unfortunately always the extremist always stands out. The different thing always shows, unfortunately. I mean, you'd be surprised. The normal Gulf citizen is generally a peaceful and composed person. The nature of the Gulf citizen is naturally tolerant, calm, guided by God, and minds their own business. And the nature of our leadership, God blessed us with leadership in the Gulf that shared its bread with us. God blessed us with leadership in the Gulf that suited us. God blessed us with leadership in the Gulf that loved its people. So when an extremist comes along, you say, what's wrong with him? He has a problem. Intellectual and ideological extremism, the Iranian inclination. This is what comes out. You say, no, there's a problem here. So you see here, the Gulf unity in dealing with this ideological mindset was the defining feature of handling this crisis.
But today, thank God, there are Gulf citizens like you and your peers who are stronger, bolder in confronting Iran and its narrative than a major media institution funded by a Gulf state. Why? This Gulf citizen daily confronts the Iranian narrative on X in social gatherings everywhere, unlike another institution funded by a Gulf state, for example.
As I told you, God bless you. After 2014, individual media shifted and became stronger than institutional media. You noticed, God bless you, the power and momentum shifted to individual media, which worked in our favor as people. And don't forget, people have a connection to the land more than institutions. In institutions, the calculations are different. The institution has media calculations, well, not just media, commercial calculations, other calculations, but the people have a connection. You see, your connection to the land is a social one. Sometimes, Jamal, when they ask you about your connection to the region, what is Bahrain to you? I'd say Bahrain is my mother, Bahrain raised me, Bahrain is my father. Sometimes when we visit a country, or even just here, for example, I studied in Lebanon for a while. So when I hear the song, I Love You Lebanon, my homeland, I feel Lebanon is my home. I visit the Emirates every month. My relationship with the people there, even with the Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, may God protect him, his greeting to me, my greeting to Sheikh Mohammed. I always feel like there's a mutual feeling between me and the people of the UAE. It's different. There's a spiritual bond. So the way people connect with each other is different. That's why the people's connection is part of the land, unlike institutions. An institution has different calculations. It has commercial calculations. Political calculations are completely different. That's why the people's media became stronger, more trending, and more influential than institutions. So thank God that social media today overcomes institutions.
You're not afraid of Iranian drones anymore?
Well, at first it was something new to us, but later, no, a bit at night, we hear the sound. We say, no, our guys caught them.
Because there is often a glorification of Iranian technology. They will tell you that they have advanced ballistic missiles and Iranian-made drones, which are frequently mentioned. How do you respond to such a narrative presented by these people?
Have you seen any exports?
Iranian exports abroad?
No, look, when does it become clear that a state has industrial capability? Look at the exports of any kind of goods. Did they export food? Did they export education? Did they export some kind of soft power? Forget about the arms industry, that comes later. First, countries export health systems, they export educational systems, they export various types of industries. Then you move on to the military industry. The military industry comes later. Did Japan manufacture weapons today? No. First, it manufactured cars, education, and various other things. Well, today we haven't seen Iranian industries, meaning we haven't seen them at a certain quality level where quality systems are applied to these systems. We haven't seen them. We haven't seen Iranian cars for starters. So how can there be glorification of weapons before glorifying things that are less than that? The Iranian narrative is just talk, like the masked knight. Have you heard the story of the masked knight?
Yes.
Like the stories of al-Khudr and Aliv, like the stories you have in Korfakan, you have the story of Slayam. Is that it? Slayam.
Fictional stories.
Yes, there's a story you have in Korfakan. The people of Kulba have the story of Slayam, I don't know what, who sits on clothes. I don't know what. The old folks used to tell it. stories from the imagination, from things. Do they have industries? They have modest industries, very modest, but are we unable to counter them? No, by God, we are more than capable. We can even catch them with slingshots. All right, that's it. In the beginning, it was something we didn't expect because we are among the peoples and countries that respect the rights of neighbors. We have values, thank God. Our leadership, may God protect them, have great values. We uphold the rights of neighbors and the rights of Islam. We haven't transgressed, nor have we violated the rights of neighbors. But what was surprising was that they violated the rights of neighbors. That was the strange thing about them. And so far, we still haven't transgressed. We haven't.
In your opinion, Mr. Ibrahim, do we need to Khalij-ize the Gulf media today, meaning we are the ones who tell our story?
We really do need to Khalij-ize the Gulf media because, look, before Khalij-ize the Gulf media, Jamal, I want to ask you a question. Is it aggression or perhaps something more severe? Or is it actually a war crime? Or really, what exactly is it? What is the term we can use for this? When we want to have crisis media, we must have a unified terminology. We need a specific style sheet. In crisis media, we always need a say and don't say guide. You and I don't agree today on whether it's a war crime. For example, in Bahrain, a university was hit and a water desalination plant was hit. And there was an attack on civilian homes. There was an attack. Should I call it a war crime? I really don't know. Well, in that case, I need a style sheet as a media professional, and so do you. Do we need in Bahrain, or not just Bahrain, in the Gulf, a central unit for crisis management itself? We know that every country has its own different geopolitical challenges. For example, the Sultanate of Oman has a certain situation, Saudi Arabia has a certain situation, Bahrain and the UAE. Each country has a different geopolitical situation. But our crises require a central media unit to manage this entire crisis. Before the Gulfization of the media, we need to define the term. Secondly, the media messages, reassurance. Who was providing it for us? It was God protect them, our leadership. Like Prince Salman bin Hamad, God protect him. In Bahrain, he visited supermarkets to check on the supply chain supplies we have in Bahrain. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, God protect him, visited Dubai Mall. The messages were being sent by the leaders. After that, the media moves with them. So you notice this thing. So readiness was dependent on the movement of the leadership. Gulfization of the media, yes, we need it. But now the question is, if we actually Gulfize the media, do we really have a bank of experts? Today, how did you get to know me? By recommendation. Someone else personally recommended me to you. Do we today, you and I, really need a Gulf economic person at this particular moment? Do we have a bank of experts? We need a Gulf bank of experts, and there are many. There are many, I tell you, I am sure there are many, and many of the banks today are managed by Gulf nationals, but the ones who are most prominent are not Gulf nationals in the media,
Well, we have noticed for many decades that suits and ties are more common than al-Gutra and al-Aqal, and the Kandura.
Yes, look, let me just take a moment to tell you something important, Jamal. Today we live in a world called the VUCA world, V-U-C-A. The VUCA world. This VUCA world is a world that came after the stage of creative chaos. You know who invented creative chaos, of course, Condoleezza Rice. VUCA, first of all, is a world of chaos. After it came a methodology called the VUCA methodology, the methodology of ambiguity, VUCA, V-U-C-A. V for volatility, U for uncertainty, C, which is complexity, and A for ambiguity. In some countries, including the UAE, they have established departments within some institutions called the Department of Ambiguity. After creative chaos, departments are established within some countries called the Department of Ambiguity. In the year 2018, the US Army developed a methodology called the Methodology of Ambiguity to dismantle after creative chaos. Demystifying ambiguity. How does it demystify ambiguity? Media organizations have developed their media methodologies in tandem with political and military issues. My question to you, God bless you, is, are our media organizations in the Arab and Gulf countries synchronized with VUCA? Are they still living in SWOT analysis? That's if they even have SWOT analysis. We're still living in the pre-2014 era. Therefore, we now need media organizations to train on methodologies like the VUCA methodology. The VUCA methodology, it's a very great methodology. There's another methodology called the tuna methodology. Americans use the VUCA methodology, while the British use the tuna methodology, which they developed at Oxford, but it's not very widespread.
And what is tuna?
Tuna has a specific acronym, but it's not very common. VUCA was applied in Syria. It was applied in many Arab countries. That's why you see American media organizations, whenever a political or military problem occurs in any country in the world, you see American media organizations ahead of the event, moving with the event. When predicting the event, there is also another methodology, which is called future wheels. Therefore, media organizations really need to train their teams and keep up with the ongoing events. Creative chaos brought about VUCA. VUCA is something media organizations need to be trained on. We are completely far as media institutions from VUCA.
So what are we lacking right now? I mean, what exactly are we lacking to really understand VUCA and future wheels? What are we missing?
We are unfortunately, in media institutions, a nation of rhetoric and not a nation of proof. We need to train institutionally on how to analyze, how to integrate, how to organize. Institutional organization isn't just an administrative structure. We need to demystify ambiguity. Right now, we're in this crisis we're going through, a crisis of ambiguity. I mean, right now, we really do not know what Iran will do next. We're unable to effectively deal with the event. We must understand and be very, very close to military systems. Of course, it's true that military systems inform and explain things to us, but we must also be aware it's very necessary that I train the institution, the emergency management within the media institution on one of these. This is my recommendation, Jamal. Let the media institution train on the VUCA methodology. This is my recommendation as a specialist in the field of institutional assessment, and I know that this methodology is widely applied in the UAE.
So you believe that media organizations in the Gulf should be in direct contact or communication with intelligence and defense agencies and so on?
Of course, and also within the media organizations themselves, they are supposed to be highly aware of this methodology. I mean, it's not just about writing a press release. No. They are supposed to have a very high capacity for analysis.
And in your opinion?
We are now in a stage called the stage of ambiguity. There are departments being established, an ambiguity management department. And by the way, I'll tell you, ambiguity is not a problem, just a military crisis. Ambiguity is also in the climate today. Yesterday we heard, glory be to God. There is no God but God, the thunder and lightning. What we saw in Bahrain was louder than the sound of Iran's missiles, as if it were a message from heaven that Iranian missiles are nothing. Thunder and lightning, God Almighty is much stronger.
God is stronger.
God is stronger, Almighty, that's right. Therefore, you also need to address the issue of ambiguity in the climate. Today, God Almighty, the climate is changing. A whole year's worth of rain is gathering for you in a day or two. So you also need to train in climate analysis for the media, meteorology, and so on.
In your opinion, if you can dismantle the ambiguity, where are we headed?
Look, events are becoming more compressed and life is getting faster. We are heading towards information, the amount of information. We are in an information revolution. Information is going to move and be much faster. The enemies today are digital enemies, not just Iran. Today you are facing, maybe Iran is shifting now, not drones, maybe. Iran is shifting its focus to cybersecurity, engaging in what is essentially a cyber war that can even stop drones. It is possible to actually have a cyber war, and over time, wars themselves will gradually become more cyber in nature. So you prioritize the Gulf interest during this period. Therefore, the ambiguity that exists now, as time goes on, you try to slowly dismantle it piece by piece. It becomes, look, let me give you an example. A while ago, back in the year 2018, China dismantled almost a network of officers, 10 officers who were spying on it. And Korea had almost a police force called the technology police, programmers turned into police. Because smuggling programming from Korea to China is considered a particularly serious crime, in fact. So life is developing, and the digital side of it is truly great. It has become, copyright, intellectual capital, they call it. The world borders today are no longer just borders consisting of passports today. The mind is a border.
Ideas.
Ideas have become borders.
Yes.
The bond between us today, the connection we share right now, is what we must protect.
Is there a final message you'd like to share from this platform?
Are we done already? Look, we now, my friend, need a narrative. We've been using this term a lot lately, but not in the right way. Gulf unity was clear in this crisis. We were all, as Gulf people, under the same attack. Unfortunately, the aggression against us is from the same side.
The same side.
The media narrative isn't just our dialogue. It must become a film, a dialogue, a meeting, stories we tell our kids. There must be one narrative, a cognitive break. We say on this day, February 28th, 2026, we tell our kids the same story, all of us as Gulf people. It was a decisive moment that united all Gulf people. It was one day that changed the whole equation. One enemy brought everyone together with one voice.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said that, for instance, following World War II, the term anti-Semitism started to emerge, and anyone sympathizing with or even questioning the Holocaust was punished. Right? In Europe. And so, for instance, when someone asks why we allow the Iranian regime to penetrate Gulf or Arab societies in practice, well, it's intellectual terrorism and influence minds through this ideology. Why isn't this regulated? Why isn't this narrative deterred and restricted by law? The same goes for communism during the Cold War.
Well, look, I believe that if the Gulf states wanted to fight, of course they don't, and we aren't aggressors. If they wanted, they could send Iran back 100 years. But they don't want to. We are not aggressive nations.
But regarding the narrative in the Gulf, I mean, when you penetrate Gulf or Arab peoples, and you suddenly find a segment of people sympathizing with Iran against you, someone siding against their own country means there's a problem. So why isn't this legally organized? So that, like what happened with anti-Semitism or against communism in the Cold War. Why is the Iranian narrative allowed to pass freely through institutions and media voices among us?
I think the issue is related to the aspects. Okay, that's a very, very good question. And it's related to the aspect. Look at the narrative. It's a very deep question. It requires a massive production, a massive media production. The media narrative for anti-Semitism Hollywood dedicated a huge operation to it. The entire global media was dedicated to ending this whole issue. And if we really want that, then we need to spend quite a lot on this matter.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Yes, indeed. It needs research beyond me. Honestly, it needs it because it's truly striking at the core of the nation. We are one nation. We are one nation. We are all Muslims. We all face the same Qibla. We all pray the same prayer. But there are those who strike deep into the relationship between Muslims. Unfortunately, there are those who strike at the heart of this nation, and their concern is politics, not Islam, not Islam. Unfortunately, their concern is primarily politics. I believe the Iranian narrative's primary goal is to divide the nation. It's a Persian creation, not an Islamic one.
God helps us. May God protect us from evil.
Amen, Ya Rabbi, we pray.
Thank you. From the sisterly kingdom of Bahrain, our brother Mr. Ibrahim Al-Tamimi, the media professional and expert in institutional evaluation. You've done a great job. You've enlightened and honored us.
May God prolong your life.
So we are always continuing with you from this program, Gulf Uncensored on Arabcast. Please accept the greetings of your brother Jamal Al-Mullah. Stay in God's care.